Hello, welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. On Wisdom Wednesdays, I share tips on baking. Thank you for joining me today. If you need to get in touch right now, I am live on LinkedIn. So come on here to ask all your questions on artisan bread baking industrially. Okay? All right, so let's see, who do we have? Why is it not working on certain platforms? Anyway, so let me start by saying we are actually having quite a challenge where I live in Clackamas County in Oregon. And a majority of our team lives here in Clackamas County. So portion of us have evacuated because of level 3 and level 3 fire warnings in the Clackamas County. So stay safe, all of you. And I hope it doesn't escalate to level 3 at where I am living. So let's keep our fingers crossed. Okay. All right. Let's see. I am not seeing anything from Twitter. Okay. Anyway, we need to fix our Twitter account, Joanna. It's not going through. Let's see. So today's Wisdom Wednesday is brought to you by Urex. Urex is a specialist in malts and sourdoughs and amazing artisan sourdough bread mixes. So if you need anything for your industrial artisan bread baking process, please reach out to Urex, and you can reach them on our sponsor showcase. Go to Urex and ask for samples in whatever I'm talking about today. If you need German rye bread mixes, if you need spelt bread mixes, if you need gluten-free bread mixes, you know, Urex will have them. So we are going to cover a few tips today on industrial bread baking. Okay, so what are the top 5 processing tips? The top 5 processing tips we have today is fermentation, mixing, makeup area, which is the intermediate proofing area. Then we go into the final proofing and then the baking. So if you would like to summarize the artisan bread baking process, then it's pretty much summarized into this 5 really important steps. Okay. All right. So let's go into fermentation. Okay, why is fermentation important? Well, fermentation is important because during fermentation, a lot of the mechanism of producing carbon dioxide and gases from carbs using vehicles like yeast and sourdough bacteria not only provides the volume in your bread products, but it provides that amazing aromatic, alcoholic, acidic aromas that comes with feeding these microorganisms. Okay. Other things that happens during fermentation is the improvement in aromas, the reduction in acids, and the hydration of gluten proteins. Now, this is the reason why a lot of the artisan bread in the market in Europe has a long fermentation time. And because of this, they are able to use less dough conditioners. They're able to use lower protein quality flours, and they are able to get that amazing shelf life from the reduction in pH. Okay, so if you take a look at our episode on the YouTube channel, it's episode number 28. It's on fermentation, proofing pizza and rye bread. Okay, so take a look at that Ask Dr. Lin episode, and I will go into a little bit more of this fermentation and its function and why it's important. I would love for you to share the episode with your coworkers who want to zip past fermentation because they feel that fermentation is just to produce gases. No, it doesn't just produce gas. It's got all these amazing magical things happening in that system as well. Okay, it's in episode 28, so I won't go further into it. Just go take a look at that episode. The answers are in there for you. Okay, with fermentation also comes pre-ferments. Okay, pre-ferments are things like biga, poolish, your sponge and dough, and your sourdough starter. Okay, all those also work in helping hydrate the gluten, reduce the acidity, and also provide that amazing aroma in your bread product. Okay, I know a lot of you don't have the space for a 14, 15-hour poolish or starter. Okay, that's not the end of the world. Think about other solutions like brews. If you can't give your product a sponge, give it a brew. Okay, there are brew systems out there from people like Chic and Steve. Okay, and they'll put in starter tanks for you, brew starter tanks. And remember, when you do that, the more flour you add into the brew part, the better it is for your system, the lower mixing times you get. And it's all because of fermentation, okay? The more flour you put in the brew, the more fermentation you're going to receive, okay? So I encourage as much bulk and as much sponge fermentation as you can possibly give the bread. Not only because you're going to provide that amazing aroma, but you're going to get that nice big holy crumb. Okay. All right. So what is next? What's the next most important thing in artisan bread? Can you guess? Okay. It's got to do with mixing. Okay, so why is mixing important? Mixing is important because it provides that first step to hydrating the flour granules. Okay, so many people think that it's to blend and to disperse the ingredients and make it a homogeneous mix. While all that is true, the really integral part of mixing, especially in artisan bread, is the hydration aspect to it. Especially if you don't have a sponge or a brew, okay? Mixing in a straight dough system is important in hydrating the gluten proteins. Now, that's why it takes so long. It just takes extra long. If you were to do a straight dough mix versus a mix of something that has a sourdough starter or a sponge. Okay, this is the reason why. The less fermentation you give the dough, the more you have to mix to hydrate the gluten proteins before it can fully develop. Okay, so this concept needs to stick with you, and I covered it quite a bit in an earlier baker review that you can access at our Baker Academy today for free. Okay, join the Academy and download that particular presentation that I talked about hydration and mixing in artisan breads. Okay, it was done earlier this year, and that particular baker review was sponsored by Abel and Schaefer. Okay, so hydration, it's so important. That's why you mix in straight dose. Mix for a long time in straight dose. Okay, now what about incorporating air and entrapping air bubbles? That's important too, but with extended fermentation times and sponges incorporating and entrapping air is not really a big function of the mixing process for artisan bread. Okay, more importantly, once you hydrate, then you knead the dough in the mixer. Okay, if you don't properly hydrate the dough, then the kneading is not going to happen very effectively. So mixing is a chamber of hydration, blending, and kneading, okay, in that particular order. Hydration, incorporation, and blending, and then kneading, okay? Kneading doesn't happen if hydration doesn't happen, okay? So after you knead the dough, it becomes fully developed, okay? You look for that window pane test. A lot of us bakers, we're very used to pulling the dough and forming a nice window, and that only happens if there is kneading and full development, okay? So that's easy, right? All right, so next tip. What happens after that? Let's go into the makeup area, or how some bakeries put it, the intermediate proofing, okay? I see this as a key critical step in many bakeries that are scaling up. Why? Because they just don't do it right. And the reason why they don't do it right is because they do not understand how to convert from hand form to machine form, okay? Now, this particular step is so critical that a lot of bakers refuse to automate this step, okay? And it has caused a lot of downfalls in many bakeries when they don't automate this step. And why is it important to automate this step? Well, for one, worker safety. If you increase your volume from 500 pounds an hour to 2,000 pounds an hour, it's not just the output of the machines, it's more people on the line, and it's more people at the makeup area. I've seen these too frequently, you know? So when people do this and do this for many hours, guess what they're gonna have? They're gonna have carpal tunnel syndrome. Okay, so your turnover in the makeup area is gonna be high. And let me warn you, it's going to be more expensive for you in workers' comp payments than it is for you to invest in automation for this area. So if you're one of those bakeries out there thinking if you should automate this particular process in this area, my suggestion for you is don't even think about it. Do it. Okay, I've seen so many bakeries just stumble on this step because they don't believe in automation, because they feel that automation reduces the quality of your product. Okay, there are equipment out there that's maybe a little more expensive, but if you amortize over a longer period, you may be able to afford it. So there are equipment like from Macatherm that has stress-free dividing systems that will help you easily automate this process without fear of losing product quality. Okay, and if you want to learn more about Mechatherm products, please reach out to our sponsors, Mechatherm, on our sponsor showcase. Okay, please let them know what I told you about a stress-free system and about product quality. All right, they would truly understand what you're talking about because they have serviced so many artisan breads, bakeries globally, that they exactly know where your problems are. Okay, so dough dividing, dough rounding, sheeting, hand forming, panning, couching, please automate. Okay, we'll go a little more in depth into that next week during the Industrial Artisan Bread Seminar. Okay, what's next? Let's see. Do I have the slide up for that? I think I do. Here we go. All right. So this is what mass proofing look like. Okay. Preferably, I would like you bakers to completely skip batch systems and go into continual final proofing systems. And I do also believe that Mechatherm has intelligent proofing systems that can cater to different products within the proofer. Okay, so talk to them a little bit more about this. I've seen this system work before for a croissant and a artisan bread, so you should be able to find something in the final proofing area. And this is also automated proofing, also provides a wonderful opportunity for you to improve your quality and increase your consistency and reduce labor. Okay. All right. So for the final proofing process, your dough temps need to be about 75 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Your dough temperature, your proofer temperature needs to be around 95 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Your relative humidity in the proofer needs to be about 95%. And your proofing, okay, this is really important. I need to talk to you on this one. Let's take you back from this slide. If you are putting in a proofing system, please don't skim on this, okay? Get something that can bring you up to 120, 150 minutes capacity, all right? If you don't do this, you lose a lot of versatility in the products that you can produce, okay? I know a lot of you are so used to 60 minutes proof, and you put in systems only for 60-minute proofs, and that pretty much cuts your versatility in half, okay? Create a system that gives you the opportunity to have a longer proof, especially for items like multi-grain, rye, artisan breads, okay? So 60 to 120-minute proof is ideal for artisan breads, and this would give sourdough systems so much more time to develop that wonderful flavor for artisanal breads. Okay, all right, so let's go on to our last tip, which is, can you guess? Yes, baking. All right. For those of you who follow me frequently, you know that I am a big fan of thermal profiling. Yes, to learn more about thermal profiling, go back to one of our bake review presentations, and I just deep dive into the process of thermal profiling with Ray Pierce from ECD. Okay, you cannot bake any kind of industrial bread without thermal profiling, okay? And if you need to try out a system to try to wanna, determine if it works for you, I can send you mine. Okay, but we need to be better buddies first. Okay, so what happens is when you study your thermal profiling, you get a true understanding of what happens in the core temperature as it reaches 198 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. This equates to 92 to 95 degrees Celsius. Okay. During the baking process, you bake up 9 to roughly 15% of your moisture. Okay. And if I know you, a typical artisan baker, like to bake out so much moisture. Sometimes you overbake out the moisture. And because of that, you decrease your shelf life. Okay. So it's important. If you take a look at our Scale Up series, I managed to reduce the baking times based on thermal profiling. Okay. Now, typical baking times for baguettes that are 12 ounces, it's from 18 to 25 minutes. Typical baking times for ciabatta, ciabatta has really high hydration. It takes longer to bake out a ciabatta, but a 12-ounce ciabatta would go somewhere between 20 to 28 minutes in the oven. Okay. For batards, a 16-ounce batard usually take you about 20 to 28 minutes. And bowls, round bowls, would take a little longer at 24 to 30 minutes for 16-ounce dough weight. Okay, so those are just recommendations. We will go deep dive into the process a little bit more next week during the Industrial Bread Seminar. And please feel free to bring your questions. Okay, just giving a quick plug for Erex. Their malts are amazing just for the baking process. They really provide that nice brown aromatic taste and smell to the artisan breads. Okay, so ask for a malt sample from Erex today. Okay, the malt is just amazing. All right. So to end today's Wisdom Wednesday, I would like to encourage you to come to our seminar next week, September 17th. It's on a Thursday, and Mark Flarkey will be baking some amazing breads to showcase from Erex, and I will be covering the technical side of things. And as usual, we will be ending the session in a round table where you can ask your questions. Okay, so come and sign up today, and we will see you then. Thank you, everyone. Have a great Wednesday, bakers.